You ever wonder how your experience in Arc Raiders could differ so greatly from someone else you may be seeing play the game? Why are you in aggressive matchmaking while others are having a grand old time chatting with 5 raiders at a time, making it out safely? Well, there's been a long-standing theory that recently was confirmed by Embark, and it changes the game a little bit. Today we're taking a look at why that great divide happens, how you can kind of choose your own outcome to a degree, and whether or not that's a good or bad thing. So drop your thoughts, drop a like if you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to subscribe to stay updated with all things Arc Raiders and other FPS content. Also, we've been streaming a lot more recently, whether here on the channel or over on Twitch. I'd love to have you in the community. Come stop by and say hello. We can chat. Might actually even be live as of this video going live. But anyways, let's get into it. So why do some people get these blissful, chill lobbies while others are in PvP wars? For a long time, an aggression-based matchmaking system was rumored to be a thing, something many got behind because it wasn't necessarily like something that was too tough to point out. Play some PvP, you got shot at more and more, but if you decided to be passive after a few matches, you'd see some other players being passive as well, sometimes even trusting. So while not explicitly mentioned until recently, it was a pretty easy to test hypothesis, with results being noticeable rather quickly. However, as of recently, it was actually something explicitly touched on. GamesBeat interviewed Patrick Soderlund, the Embark CEO, and the topic of matchmaking came up. Now, there is an article talking about these things that they learned, but surprisingly, it doesn't mention this portion of the discussion. However, they attached in the article a rather candid discussion at large with Soderlund via an hour-long gameplay session. There, the discussion comes into play.
We also, since a week ago or so, we introduced a system where we also matchmake based on how prone you are to watch. By the way, we also matchmake now based on how prone you are to PvP or PvE. So if your preference is to do PvE and you know, have less conflict with players,
you get matched up with that.
You'll get more matched up. Obviously, it's not a full science. Sometimes
that's nice. I mean, I did have someone ask me, like, is there aggression-based matchmaking? And that sounds like that's it.
And that's
right?
exactly what it is.
Okay.
So we did that, and a game like this will always, we knew from the beginning that we always knew that we were going to get some, that the game is especially as the game has gotten big.
So it's finally confirmed. Aggression-based matchmaking is indeed a thing. I think this is pretty apparent. Like, it was kind of a conspiracy, but one that was pretty easy to replicate and kind of point validation towards. But I'll be honest, I've been doing a ton of recouping from the expedition the last few times I've played. Some of you may have been seeing it live on stream, but we'd do a few naked kit runs. No gun, shield, augment, nothing. Just go in and get out for that safe pocket that you wouldn't otherwise have with a free kit, and in no time, all our lobbies became pretty much just chill people talking, helping each other out, stuff like that. I mean, this one dude even gave me a Mark III augment blueprint for nothing. Hello.
Oh, hey buddy.
What's up?
Here we go. Do you need the blueprint for the combat Mark III flanking augment?
I don't think I have that one, but...
Okay. I don't really need it, so you can have it.
Thanks, man.
No problem. Good.
I mean, dog, like, solos are just a different breed. Like, what? That's the second time somebody in 2 games has given me something that is like solid tier loot. We are playing completely different games, 100%. Like, dog, what? So it is nice to have that validation that it's just not some crazy conspiracy, but it is interesting, though, that Soderlund had mentioned it was only enacted within the last week or so, as I'm not too sure I buy into that one, having felt more passive play when playing passively earlier than that point. But I definitely have noticed it way more, for lack of a better word, aggressively this weekend since the update for the Cold Snap event. As in, for a good stretch, I had zero concern about being shot because I just knew it wasn't going to happen after 30+ raids of friendly interaction, so maybe there's something there. But I guess the bigger question is this a good thing? Frankly, I know this might be a controversial take given some comments I've seen on prior discussions of it, but I'm kind of totally fine with this because it gives the player ultimate control. Embark does not appear to be doing anything in regards to opening up any dedicated PvE experiences anytime soon, if ever. I do personally think that it'd be really cool to have a sort of rare, high-stakes, massive in-world event that everyone can queue into, and it's like a major map condition that we have to fight the King arc or something like that, the biggest that we see off on the horizon, that it's a singular particular map condition, but it's the entire world PvE against that king arc enemy, and you're tasked with fighting it as a really tough challenge, but it doesn't appear that there's anything dedicated as a partition for just PvE for the whole game coming anytime soon, if ever. So this appeases those players based on what they want. You like fighting? Great. You can go in full bore and go fight everything that moves. But if you want a more chill or even PvE experience, take a few naked runs either looting and getting out or just straight up go in with nothing and surrender. You lose nothing at all since you have nothing on you, then you re-queue and it resets your matchmaking level per se. This is coming from someone that loves fighting and also loves to loot up and doing side quests, like finding blueprints and stuff, but I like both sides of the coin. So for me, knowing this is a thing that I can control whichever one I want to do, I'm kind of totally okay with this at the moment because I can control that fate. If I want a chill time, I won't chase down players, but if I want to be aggressive, I'll push guns blazing. Inherently, in a PvPvE game, of course, there's always going to be that threat, and that's one of the things that does end up sort of giving it those stakes, and I understand any potential opposition to this in the name of stakes for an extraction shooter, but given the two very clear vocal divides, I think having some choice in how you approach things isn't the worst in this situation, especially as a game that's an entry-level extraction shooter. This isn't a hardcore experience like a Tarkov, a Gray Zone, or something else out there that has way more depth, complexity, and a lot higher stakes in that regard. This is an entry-level thing, getting people interested in the genre and seeing if you want to pursue it any further. I'm not necessarily too bothered by this because of that. Other counterpoints I've also seen is that it's not organic in that sense, and sure, that can be a case that's made, but I think the bigger point as to why I'm relatively unbothered by this is that the matchmaking isn't manipulative. It's not some hidden MMR that you don't have any direct control over. This is just tailoring the experience based off of how you play and how you want to play. You can choose to adjust that whenever you'd like, whereas other matchmaking systems don't really do that. So for me, I'm not personally bothered by this. I think it's good to replenish your war chest after an expedition or something, for example. Get that loot you lost back, go for some blueprints, do some quests, trials, bench upgrades, you name it, at the pace at which you'd like to do it, and then you can jump in and play the game however you want. I do think the one thing that may still be a question mark, though, is the split between player pools. Like when testing out of curiosity, solos were mad easy to get into chill lobby sets, right? But are there different ratings on account that they have per solos, duos, and trios, that they pause whenever you're not playing solos, but instead resume whenever you play duos and trios in their respective categories? Is it all one fluid scaling rating for aggression that accounts for all three party types, but is then calculated as an average among either 2 or 3 players when in a party? Like, there could be levels and alternatives to this, but we just don't have much information on how this is processed in matchmaking, and frankly, I don't think we'll ever have that information here readily available to us. I do, however, think that this could pose some unintended consequences based off vagueness in that matchmaking still. I'm not saying this to advocate for a full understanding of the systems at hand, as I'm sure that to avoid any exploitation, some secret sauce does need to be withheld, but the one thing that I always come back to in an aggression score, we'll call it, is that based off of your engagements or your engagements? Let me explain. Like, does this only account for when you're shooting and being aggressive and pushing those fights as the sort of first aggressor, or is there layers to it that it doesn't punish players who want to be passive but are only defending themselves in gunfights? Like a sort of Han shot first type of thing. Does it measure your aggression based on if you initiate or defend, or both? Or is it a scaling thing that maybe if you attack first, it counts more as aggressive than defensive? To me, I think that that's one of those areas that does pose a sort of downside. It doesn't appear that fighting Arc ends up adjusting this in any way, shape, or form. Like in all of my chill lobbies while testing this kind of stuff out, I'd fought Bombardiers, Leapers, and such for bench upgrades, fought off countless Arc, helping other players out, to the point where I don't think it was anything that was factored in really at all. So that's a couple of questions that we guess can pose for future discussions, but interestingly, it also wasn't the only mention of the matchmaking systems talking about layers, because there do seem to be layers in place already with varying systems. One of the ones mentioned was party-based systems, which we kind of knew of from the jump. Initially, it was mentioned explicitly that when launched was something that prioritized trios matching with other trios, and solos prioritized being matched with other solos. But shortly after launch, like a few days only max, duos was also prioritized so that the matchmaking system in full makes sure that you're matched up with other players of similar party sizes, so there's no uneven encounters or for the most part, there's no uneven encounters. Like Patrick Soderlund did end up mentioning that it is rare case situations, but it can happen that a solo could be in a trio lobby, or a solo could be in a duo. Funnily enough, even mentioned whenever they did run into some situation that they were like, that guy could be solo, but unlikely. Now, one thing that was also just everybody's favorite topic the last few years that was mentioned was skill-based factors. That they didn't expand on, it was just something that was kind of said in passing. I'm not necessarily getting too worked up over this just yet because, frankly, I don't know how much I buy into that. Like, that could be general skill factoring, but I'll be totally honest with you. There are so many different situations where if I've gotten in a fight, I'm like, no, our team was 100% way better than that other team. Like, too many to count that it's kind of suspicious to me. While I do fully acknowledge there are, again, in these PvP lobbies, you're going to have some sweat lords and people that are absolutely very high-skilled players going up against high-skilled players. I don't know how much I think that would be, like, a priority item there with it. But I guess that could be something that's just me, like, anecdotally, it doesn't follow into what could be. But there was a mention of skill, just as a heads up. But anyways, we did finally get some confirmation on how the matchmaking systems in Arc Raiders do work. We've had these theories for a long time since the launch, but now to see these explicitly commented on by the CEO of Embark, it's at least insightful at the very least, validating in some other areas as well that we're not crazy. But anyways, what do you think of this? What do you think of this confirmation of these varying levels of matchmaking systems that are taken into place when queuing into games? Do you like them, dislike them? Let me know. But if you guys enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Arc Raiders and even more FPS content. I'd love to have you in the community. For now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you later. Take care and peace.